The wind carried whispers through the narrow streets of Anbar, Iraq. The kind of whispers that didn't come from people, but from something unseen. Something that lurked where the light couldn't reach. The air was thick with dust, clinging to the cracked walls of abandoned buildings, their broken windows like hollow eyes staring into nothing. It was the kind of place where silence had weight, where even the stray dogs refused to bark after dark. Adam Carter adjusted the strap of his backpack, his boots crunching against the dirt road as he followed his guide, Farid, through the dimly lit alleyway. The moon hung low, its pale glow barely piercing through the thick desert haze. Adam had been in Iraq for only a few weeks, a journalist chasing stories about the strange and unexplained. He had heard many tales, of things people saw but wished they hadn't, of whispers in the night that carried warnings no one understood. But this one was different. "If you see a man's shadow," Farid said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, "just hide." Adam frowned. "A man's shadow? What does that even mean?" Farid didn't answer right away. His dark eyes flickered toward the empty street ahead, scanning the rooftops, the corners where darkness pooled like spilled ink. "It is not a man," he said finally. "But it looks like one." Adam chuckled nervously. "Come on, man. You expect me to believe in ghosts?" Farid stopped walking. The air around them seemed to still. "Not ghosts," he said, turning to look at Adam. "Worse." The wind picked up suddenly, sending a chill down Adam's spine despite the heat of the desert night. The way Farid spoke, the way his shoulders tensed, it was enough to make Adam uneasy. He had covered war zones, seen the worst of what humans could do to each other. But this wasn't about war. This was something else. "People disappear," Farid continued. "At night. In places like this. No signs of struggle, no bodies left behind. Just thin." Adam wanted to dismiss it, to call it superstition, but he had heard enough strange stories over the years to know that sometimes people were afraid for a reason. And here, in this forgotten part of Anbar, fear was stitched into the very fabric of the place. A distant sound echoed through the streets, a slow, deliberate scraping, like metal dragged against stone. Adam turned toward the noise, his pulse quickening. The street ahead stretched into darkness, the buildings pressing in on either side. "Don't look," Farid whispered. But it was too late. Adam's breath hitched as he saw it. A shadow impossibly tall, stretching out from behind a building at the end of the street. But there was no one there. No person, no figure casting it. Just the shadow itself, moving against the light, bending unnaturally, shifting as if it were alive. Then it turned, and it saw him. The shadow didn't move like a normal one. It stretched and twisted against the dim moonlight, bending as if it had a mind of its own. Adam felt his stomach tighten. His breath caught in his throat, and his hands instinctively clenched into fists. This wasn't just a trick of the light. This wasn't normal. Farid grabbed his arm, his grip firm, almost painful. "Don't stare," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "We go now." But Adam couldn't look away. There was something deeply wrong with what he was seeing. Shadows didn't behave like that. They didn't shift in ways that defied logic, creeping toward you when there was no one there to cast them. The rational part of his brain screamed for an explanation, something, anything that made sense. But deep down in the pit of his gut he knew. There was no explanation. The scraping sound came again. Closer this time. A slow, dragging noise like something being pulled across stone. Farid yanked him hard. "Move!" Adam stumbled forward, his feet suddenly feeling heavy as if the air around them had thickened. They hurried down the alley, the old stone walls towering over them. Adam's pulse pounded in his ears. He wanted to turn back to see if the shadow was still following, but he forced himself to listen to Farid. "What the hell was that?" Adam gasped, trying to keep up. Farid didn't answer immediately. His jaw was clenched, his eyes darting to every dark corner as if expecting something to lunge at them from the shadows. When they reached a narrow side street, Farid finally spoke. "I told you not to look. You think I could just ignore that?" Adam shot back, his voice still shaky. What was it? Farid exhaled sharply. Something that shouldn't be here. Adam stared at him, waiting for more, but Farid just kept walking, faster now, his boots kicking up dust. The whole city felt empty, too quiet, like the buildings themselves were holding their breath. They finally stopped outside an old rusted door at the back of what looked like an abandoned shop. Farid pushed it open and gestured for Adam to step inside. The room smelled of dust and old wood, the air thick and musty. There were no windows, just a few flickering candles on a low wooden table. Farid bolted the door behind them. Okay, Adam said, trying to steady his breathing. You need to tell me what's going on. Farid paced for a moment, running a hand through his dark hair. He looked conflicted, like he wasn't sure if he should say anything. But finally he sighed. You Americans, you like answers. But sometimes there are no answers. Adam crossed his arms. Try me. Farid sat down on a stool, his shoulders tense. This place. It has stories. Old ones. Long before war, before all of this. He gestured vaguely toward the outside world. There are things here that don't belong to our world. Adam frowned. Like what? Spirits. Demons. Farid shook his head. Not spirits. Not demons. Something else. Adam didn't believe in ghosts. He never had. But he also knew when someone was genuinely afraid. And Farid was terrified. They say, Farid continued, his voice lower now, that there was once a man. Long ago. No one knows his name, but they know what he became. He made a deal with something. Something dark. And when he died, he didn't leave. His shadow remained. Adam shifted uncomfortably. A curse. Farid nodded slowly. Something like that. But it's not just a story. People vanish. The ones who see it, who look too long. His voice trailed off. Adam swallowed. They disappear. Yes. Adam rubbed his face, trying to process it. He wanted to call it superstition, but the image of that shadow moving, twisting, creeping toward him, was burned into his mind. Farid stood suddenly and grabbed a small bag from the shelf, pulling out a handful of dried herbs and sprinkling them over the doorway. We stay here till sunrise, he said. It does not like the light. Adam glanced at the candles, their weak flames barely holding back the darkness. And if the candles go out? Farid didn't answer. The silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken fear. Outside, the wind howled through the empty streets, rattling loose shutters and sending a dry, hollow sound through the walls. Adam checked his watch. A little past midnight. Hours to go before the first hint of dawn. He exhaled slowly, trying to shake the tension from his body. So, you've seen it before. Farid hesitated. Then he nodded. Adam waited, but Farid didn't elaborate. The man just sat there, staring at the door. His hands gripping his knees so tightly his knuckles turned white. Another gust of wind. Another distant scrape. Adam shifted closer to the table, eyeing the flickering candlelight. What happens if it finds us? Farid looked up, his face grim. You don't want to know. The words sent another chill through Adam's spine. He had covered dangerous stories before. War, corruption, crime. But this was different. This was something he couldn't explain, something he couldn't fight with reason or logic. A sudden noise outside made them both freeze. A soft, deliberate tap against the door. Adam's heart pounded. Low. And hurried. Farid didn't move. He didn't even breathe. His eyes locked onto the door. His entire body stiff. Then silence. Adam's fingers curled into his palms. He wanted to say something, to ask what they should do. But he already knew the answer. Don't move. Don't look. Just wait. The silence after the tapping felt heavier than the sound itself. Adam's pulse throbbed in his ears. His muscles locked in place. He stole a glance at Farid, whose face was as still as stone. His eyes fixed on the door. The candle flickered. Then another sound. Not a tap this time. Slow, deliberate scrape. It ran down the length of the door like nails dragging across wood. Adam clenched his jaw. He wanted to convince himself it was just the wind. But he knew better. Farid lifted a single finger to his lips, warning Adam not to make a sound. The scrape stopped. Then nothing. For a long time they sat there frozen listening. The wind outside had died down, and the world beyond the walls felt empty. No footsteps, no movement, just a stillness that didn't feel natural. Adam's mind raced. What if it was still there, just waiting, watching? The minutes stretched. His legs ached from sitting so rigidly. He risked a glance at the candle, its tiny flame trembling against the darkness. If it went out, he didn't want to think about that. Finally, Farid exhaled, a slow and quiet breath. "It's gone," he whispered. Adam let out his own breath, though his body still felt tense. He wiped his damp palms on his jeans. "Are you sure?" Farid nodded, but he didn't look relieved. If anything, his face was more drawn than before. "For now," he said. "But it will be back." Adam ran a hand through his hair. "This is insane." He wasn't sure if he was talking to Farid or himself. Farid stood, walking carefully to the door. He pressed his ear against it, listening. After a moment, he unlatched it just enough to peek outside. The alley was empty, nothing but moonlight and dust. He shut it quickly. "We can't stay here forever," Adam muttered. Farid turned back to him, his expression unreadable. "Oh, but we wait until morning." Adam wanted to argue, but he knew Farid was right. Whatever was out there, it thrived in the dark. But that didn't mean Adam wasn't going to ask questions. He leaned forward, his voice lower now. "You said people disappear. What happens to them?" Farid hesitated. "No one knows." Adam narrowed his eyes. "There must be stories. Something." Farid sat back down, rubbing his face. He looked exhausted, like a man carrying the weight of something he wished he could forget. "There was a boy," he said finally. "Few years ago. Maybe 15, 16 years old. He lived near here, used to play soccer in the streets with his friends. One night he stayed out too late." Adam swallowed. "And?" Farid's gaze darkened. "His mother heard him scream. She ran outside, but there was nothing. No footprints, no sign of a struggle. Just his shadow on the ground, stretched too long, too thin. And then," Adam leaned in. "Then what?" Farid's voice dropped even lower. "It faded. Like smoke in the wind." A chill crawled up Adam's spine. "That's impossible." Farid gave him a tired look. "Is it?" Adam wanted to argue, to say there had to be a rational explanation. But he had seen the shadow with his own eyes. The way it moved, too fluid, too aware. It wasn't natural. "Why does it take people?" he asked. Farid shook his head. "I don't know. Some say it needs them. Others say it's searching for something or someone. But no one who sees it and doesn't look away ever comes back to tell." Adam let the words sink in. This wasn't just a legend to scare kids into coming home before dark. This was real. And he had looked. The thought sent a fresh wave of unease through him. He rubbed the back of his neck. "You've seen it before. How did you survive?" Farid hesitated. "My grandfather taught me." He knew the old ways, the things people have forgotten. He gestured to the herbs above the doorway. The faint traces of symbols scratched into the wood. "These help. But they are not always enough." Adam stared at the markings. "So what do we do?" Farid's jaw tightened. "We wait." The night stretched on, slow and unforgiving. Adam tried to keep his mind occupied, but every creak of the wooden beams made his nerves jump. At some point, exhaustion took over, and he found himself drifting in and out of uneasy sleep. Then something changed. A shift in the air. Cold. Adam woke with a start, his breath visible in the sudden chill. The candlelight flickered wildly, the flame bending as if trying to escape. Farid was already awake, staring at the door. His face was pale, his hands gripping the edge of the table. Adam followed his gaze. The door was wrong. The wood looked darker, the edges almost blurred like a smudge on an old photograph. And beneath it, shadow. Not cast by the candlelight. Not cast by anything at all. It was back. And this time it wasn't leaving. The shadow beneath the door was still. Too still. It didn't flicker like a normal shadow. Didn't stretch with the shifting candlelight. Just existed. As if it belonged to nothing and yet everything. Adam's breath came shallow. His fingers curling into the fabric of his jeans. He could hear his own heartbeat, loud in his ears, matching the rhythm of the cold silence pressing against the room. He didn't want to move. He didn't even want to blink. Farid was rigid beside him. His body locked in a tension Adam had never seen before. He had the look of a man staring at something he had spent his entire life trying to avoid. Then the door handle twitched. It was small, almost unnoticeable, but Adam saw it. A tiny, deliberate motion. Not the wind. Not settling wood. Someone or something was on the other side. The candle wavered, the light shrinking. Farid moved first. His hand shot out, grabbing a small pouch from the table. His fingers fumbling as he untied the string. He pulled out more of the dried herbs, crushing them in his palm before throwing them toward the door. The moment they hit the wood, the shadow twitched. Not faded. Twitched. Like it was alive, reacting, irritated. Adam saw it too. His throat tightened. Don't speak, Farid hissed. His voice was barely a breath. His hands trembled, but his movements were precise. He grabbed a small blade from his belt, just a simple pocket knife, and dragged the tip across his palm. Blood welled instantly. He smeared it across the doorway. The shadow recoiled. It didn't move like something scared. It moved like something waiting. Adam's stomach twisted. He wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, but he didn't dare break the silence. He could feel it. Pressure. The weight of something standing just beyond the door. Touching. Farid pressed his bleeding palm against the door. His lips moving in words Adam couldn't hear. The air in the room thickened, like they were suddenly submerged underwater. The candle dimmed even further. A whisper. Adam wasn't sure if it came from the other side of the door or if it was inside his own head. It was low, rasping, impossible to understand, but it slithered through his skull like oil, thick and cold. His vision blurred. The walls felt too close. His body felt wrong, like he wasn't fully inside himself anymore. He saw things flickering in his peripheral vision, shapes that shouldn't be there. Tall, thin figures standing in the dark corners of the room. Touching. Then, Farid grabbed his arm. Hard. Adam gasped, blinking rapidly. His body snapping back into reality. The figures were gone. The room was still the same. But the shadow was moving now. It stretched upward, climbing the doorframe, distorting into something almost human-shaped. Long, unnatural limbs, a head that was just a void of darkness. And then it leaned forward. Adam felt something press against the other side of the door, just inches from where he stood. His breath hitched. It was right there. Slow, deliberate knock. 1, 2, 3. Adam's entire body locked up. Every instinct screamed at him to run, but his feet wouldn't move. The whispering was back. Stronger. Curled around his mind, pressing, pushing, inviting. The candle sputtered. The flame bent sideways, as if something was breathing on it. Then the whispering stopped. Silence. Farid yanked Adam away from the door so fast he nearly fell backward. He grabbed a metal container from the shelf and poured a thick, dark substance across the threshold. The smell hit Adam instantly, iron. Blood. As soon as the liquid touched the floor, the shadow flinched. The unnatural form peeled away from the door, twisting, shrinking, retreating like something wounded. Then nothing. The pressure in the air lifted. The candlelight grew steady again. The room felt normal. But Adam didn't move. He didn't trust it. Farid exhaled sharply, his shoulders sagging. He didn't speak for a long moment. just stood there staring at the door, as if waiting for it to start all over again. Adam swallowed hard. His voice came out rough. "Is it gone?" Farid didn't answer right away. He wiped his bleeding hand against his shirt, breathing heavily. Then finally he spoke. "For now." Adam stared at him. "That's not good enough." Farid turned, meeting his eyes. "It never is." Adam ran a hand through his hair. His body was still buzzing with adrenaline, his skin clammy with sweat. He wanted to believe they had won. That whatever that thing was, it had left them alone. But deep down he knew better. It wasn't over. Not yet. Adam's pulse was still pounding in his ears, but the room was eerily quiet. Too quiet. The air felt lighter, but that didn't mean they were safe. The silence didn't feel like relief. It felt like something waiting. Farid stood by the door, his jaw tight, his hands clenched at his sides. His shirt was streaked with blood from his palm, but he didn't seem to notice. His eyes were fixed on the ground like he was deep in thought. Adam swallowed hard. "You knew that would work," he said, his voice hoarse. "The blood, the herbs, the symbols." Farid didn't look at him. "I hoped it would." Adam didn't like that answer. "But it's still out there, isn't it?" Farid finally met his gaze, and the look in his eyes made Adam's stomach twist. "It never really leaves." Adam exhaled sharply, running a hand over his face. His nerves were still raw, every muscle in his body tense. He needed air. He needed to clear his head. Without thinking, he stepped toward the window. "Wait," Farid's voice was sharp, but it was too late. Adam pulled back the curtain and froze. The alley outside was empty, bathed in pale moonlight. No figures, no movement, but something was wrong. The shadows along the walls, the ones cast by the crates, the broken-down carts, the overhanging roof, weren't right. They weren't sharp, weren't natural. They were moving, not shifting with the wind, not flickering with the light. Moving, like something inside them was stirring. Adam's breath caught. His eyes darted to the ground. His own shadow was there, stretching long across the floorboards in the dim light. And then it wasn't. It didn't disappear. Didn't fade. Moved. On its own. It shifted, stretching unnaturally, bending at angles that didn't match his body. His arms were at his sides, but the shadow's arms were reaching, long, thin fingers stretching toward Farid. Adam stumbled back, his chest tightening. "Farid." Farid didn't hesitate. He grabbed Adam by the wrist, yanking him away from the window, shoving him hard toward the center of the room. Then, without looking, he grabbed a handful of herbs and tossed them at the floor. The moment the dried leaves touched the wood, Adam's shadow jerked, twisted, and then it snapped back to normal. Adam gasped, stumbling, nearly falling to his knees. His heart was hammering against his ribs. He looked down, breathless, watching his shadow. It was still now normal. Just a reflection of his body. But he had seen it. He knew what he had seen. Farid was already moving, his hands shaking as he reached for a bag in the corner of the room. "We need to go." Adam's mind was spinning. "What?" "We need to go," Farid snapped, grabbing a leather strap and pulling it tight around the bag. "Now." Adam hesitated, his body still locked in fear. His hands clenched into fists. "It was my shadow," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Farid didn't look up. "I know." Adam swallowed. "What does that mean?" Farid finally turned, his face pale. "It means it's not just watching anymore." Adam felt the floor tilt beneath him. His lungs struggled to pull in air. The thing outside wasn't just lurking in the darkness. It had touched him. And now it wasn't going to stop. Farid grabbed him by the arm, his grip firm. "If we stay here, it will take you." His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with urgency. "We leave now, or you don't leave at all." Adam's stomach twisted. The room suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in. His shadow lay still beneath him, perfectly normal. But the back of his mind whispered that it wasn't, that it was just waiting. Farid was already heading for the door. His movements quick and practiced. Adam forced himself to move, shaking off the numbness creeping into his limbs. He grabbed his bag, ignoring the way his hands trembled, and followed. The night outside was quiet. Too quiet. Adam didn't look at the shadows. And he didn't dare check if his own was following the way it should. The night air was thick and heavy as Adam followed Farid through the narrow alleyways. Every step felt like walking deeper into something unseen, something waiting just beyond the edges of his vision. The silence wasn't natural. It pressed down on them, too complete, too expectant. Farid moved quickly, his footsteps careful. His grip firm as he pulled Adam forward. "Don't look back," he whispered. "No matter what you hear." Adam's heart pounded. He could feel it again. That same pressure from the room, the sensation of being watched. Not just by one thing but by many. It wasn't just behind them. It was around them. Above them. Beneath them. They turned a corner, stepping into an open courtyard littered with abandoned market stalls. The moon cast long, jagged shadows between the wooden carts and broken crates. That's when Adam saw it. His shadow. It wasn't stretching the way it should. It wasn't following the angles of the light. Stood upright. Like a person. Person with no features. No face. No form. Just a solid void where his shadow should have been. Adam's stomach lurched. His breath caught in his throat. Then it moved. Not with him. Not like a shadow should. Stepped forward. Farid reacted instantly. He yanked Adam back, pulling a small vial from his pocket and smashing it against the ground. A thick, acrid smoke erupted from the shattered glass, curling through the air like ink spilled in water. The shadow hesitated. For just a second. Then it lunged. Adam didn't have time to think. Farid shoved him hard, sending him sprawling across the courtyard. His palms scraped against rough stone as he hit the ground, gasping. His head snapped up, just in time to see the thing move toward Farid. It wasn't walking. It was gliding, stretching, shifting. Its form flickered, its edges twisting like smoke caught in the wind. But its intent was clear. It wanted Farid. Farid stood his ground, his hands moving fast, tracing symbols in the dirt with his bleeding fingers. His voice rose in a low chant, words that sent a strange vibration through the air. The shadow faltered, its form shuddering. Adam scrambled to his feet, panic surging through him. He had no idea what was happening, no idea what to do. But he knew one thing. This thing had already touched him once, and he could feel it trying to do it again. His feet moved before his mind could catch up. He grabbed a piece of broken wood from the ground and drove it straight into the center of the shadow. There was no resistance, no sound, no impact. The wood passed through it like smoke. And yet the thing reacted. It twisted violently, its form distorting, flickering in and out like a dying light. The whispering returned, louder now, angry. Adam felt something cold rush through his body, a deep, hollow sensation that clawed at his bones. His vision blurred. The world tilted. Then Farid's voice cut through the noise. "Step back." Adam barely heard him, but he obeyed, stumbling away as Farid threw a handful of something into the air. Tiny, shimmering fragments, salt. They scattered like dust, catching the moonlight for only a second before they hit the shadow. And the shadow screamed. Not a sound, not a voice, but Adam felt it. A pressure collapsing inward, a force recoiling, like the entire world was folding for just a moment. The thing convulsed, its shape stretching impossibly thin. And then it snapped. 1 second it was there. The next it wasn't. The silence returned. The air felt lighter. The market stalls were still. Adam's chest rose and fell, his breath coming in sharp gasps. His whole body was shaking. Farid stood motionless, his hands still outstretched, his fingers trembling. His eyes locked on the empty space where the shadow had been. He didn't move for a long time. Then, slowly he turned to Adam. It's done. His voice was hoarse. Adam swallowed. It's gone. Farid hesitated. Then finally he nodded. This one is. Adam didn't like the way he said that. But he didn't ask. He didn't want to know. He looked down. His own shadow stretched normally beneath him now, following the angles of the light just as it should. No movement. No twisting. No reaching. But he couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere, somehow, it was still watching, waiting. Adam and Farid stood in the quiet market, their breaths still uneven, their bodies tense even though the danger seemed to have passed. The air felt normal again, the weight of the presence gone, but something inside Adam refused to relax. His hands were still shaking, his mind replaying the moment the shadow had lunged, how it had moved, how it had felt when it reached for him. Farid finally straightened, brushing the dirt off his hands, his shoulders heavy with exhaustion. We need to leave, he said quietly, before anything else decides to come looking. Adam swallowed and nodded. His legs felt stiff, reluctant, but he forced them to move. They walked in silence through the narrow streets, the old buildings casting long shadows in the moonlight. Adam tried not to look at them. He tried not to check if his own shadow was following the way it should. The city felt different now, as if something had shifted, something he had never noticed before but would never be able to ignore again. Every dark corner, every flickering light, felt like it was hiding something just out of sight. Farid led him back to a small house tucked between taller buildings, its walls worn from time, its door creaking as he pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of burning herbs, the kind Adam had seen him use before. The warmth of the room should have been comforting, but Adam still felt cold. Farid gestured for him to sit, then rummaged through a wooden chest, pulling out a bottle of water and a small metal box. He set them down in front of Adam and opened the box, revealing a bundle of herbs and a tiny knife. Give me your hand, Farid said. Adam hesitated but obeyed, watching as Farid took his palm and inspected the faint scratches left from earlier. He took a small pinch of herbs, pressing them into Adam's skin, then reached for the knife. Adam flinched. What? It's just a precaution, Farid assured him, cutting a shallow line along his palm, just enough for a single drop of blood to well up. He mixed it with the herbs, muttering something under his breath before finally letting go. Adam exhaled, flexing his fingers. That thing, it's really gone. Farid nodded, but his expression was unreadable. For now. Adam frowned. For now. Farid sat back, rubbing his hands over his face. He looked tired, more than Adam had ever seen him. You don't understand what this was, he said finally. That wasn't just some ghost or spirit. It was older, stronger. It wasn't just feeding off fear. It was looking for something. Adam felt a chill creep down his spine. Looking for what? Farid hesitated. A place to belong. He met Adam's gaze, his expression dark. Or someone to take its place. The words sat heavy between them. Adam glanced down at his hands, at the faint mark on his palm. A thought struck him, something that made his stomach turn. You knew this wasn't over, he said slowly. Even back there. That's why you made me bleed again. Farid didn't deny it. I had to make sure it wasn't still tied to you. Adam's throat tightened. And Farid watched him for a long moment, then finally nodded. You're clean. Relief flooded through Adam's chest, but it was short-lived. The way Farid had said it, this one is gone, echoed in his mind. He wanted to believe it was over, that this nightmare had ended the moment that thing vanished. But deep down he knew better. He leaned back against the wall, exhaling slowly. This kind of thing. It happens often, doesn't it? Farid sighed. More than most people ever realize. He glanced at Adam. But once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. You can ignore it, pretend it was just a bad dream. But if it ever comes back. Adam nodded, understanding the warning. I won't be unprepared next time. Farid studied him, then finally gave a small, tired smile. Good. The room fell into silence. Outside, the wind rustled through the streets, carrying the distant sounds of the city still awake in the night. For a moment everything felt normal again. But Adam knew the truth now. There were things in the dark, and some of them were still watching.